Hi everyone, my name is Zach Carpenter, and what I'm going to go through here is my energy presentation on coal. I hope you learned something from it, and let's get started. So, what is coal and where does it come from? So, coal is a combustible black sedimentary rock with a high amount of carbon and hydrocarbons. Coal is considered a non renewable energy source because it takes millions of years to form naturally, and coal contains the energy stored by plants that lived hundreds of millions of years ago. That second point that I have there, the first one's anthracite, and that last one is lignite. The middle two, I'm not sure how to pronounce those, bituminous, something like that. But those are just four different kinds of coal with different amounts of carbon in each one. As far as people using coal, there are a lot of different groups of people that have used it throughout history. We have found that archaeologists have found that cavemen used coal. We know that the Romans used coal, and then in I think it's the 13th century, certain Native American tribes were using coal for cooking and heating. And then use of coal skyrocketed in the 19th century because coal was used to power the newly invented steam engine, which obviously made coal a very important resource at the time, and it still is a pretty important resource to this day. Moving on. What is coal used for? So in the United States, coal is mainly used to generate electrical power. They do that by burning coal to convert water to steam, and that steam drives a turbine, which then produces electricity. So that's the main thing that it's used for. It's also used in steel production a little bit because just the way that coal is, it has a lot of carbon and a low moisture content, so I guess it's good for producing steel. And then a few other things. It's used sometimes to make certain carbon fibers, like road tar, and then some medicines. So those are, but the main use for coal is to generate electricity. Okay, so we get coal from mining it, and then there are two ways that we mainly mine coal. So the first one is surface mining, and that's if the coal is close enough to the surface, you can basically just dig everything out from on top of it and then get it out that way. The second way is probably what you think of when you think about mining. It's like people going into a tunnel with like tools and stuff and then going into the earth and mining out the coal that way. So that's used for coal that's much deeper into the earth than the coal that would be surface mined. So that's where we get that from. Okay, environmental pros of coal. So actually there aren't really any. It's really bad for the environment. The mining of coal is pretty dangerous and pretty harmful to the environment. And then burning coal produces huge quantities of ash that we have to deal with. And coal produces roughly 31% of all CO2, which is more than any other fossil fuel. So that is cool, I guess. One thing I did find that there's this new thing called clean coal, and basically what that is before they burn the coal, they take it and they, through some process, they get the CO2 out of it before they burn it, and they capture the CO2 so it doesn't go into the atmosphere, and then they can basically just use the coal like normal. But even with that taken into account, coal is pretty horrible for the environment, honestly. So, that being said, environmental cons of coal. So, like on the last slide, it's really bad for the environment. More detail though, mining is really bad for land, surface water, groundwater, and air quality, so that's pretty important stuff. And then there's a third way to mine coal that I read about called mountaintop removal, which is basically where they just blow up the top of a mountain, blow the top of the mountain clean off, and then there's coal, I guess, that's exposed then that they can just take. But with those two things, the CO2 emissions are still the most harmful thing about coal. 31% of all of the Earth's CO2 in the atmosphere is produced by coal, apparently, so that's pretty crazy. All right, and then just some final information about coal. It's pretty interesting about coal. It's the most abundant fossil fuel that we have in the United States, and from what I read right now, we have enough to last like 250 years. And in addition to that, globally, coal is still the largest source of producing electricity in the world. So even though coal is really bad for the environment, and we know that it is, we're still probably going to be pretty dependent on it for a while, even though there are a lot of people pushing for like renewable energy. Just since we use coal for so much and it's like our most abundant fossil fuel, we're probably going to use it for a while unless we find something better. And then there's my sources, and then my little coal buddy thanking you for listening to the presentation about the wonderful world of coal, and then a little warning at the end: don't burn coal. It's really bad for the environment. So that's it. That's my presentation. Thank you for watching.